How's it going, guys? And my name's Shane, and welcome back to another episode of the Horror Basement. And today I'm using the notes that I took on the film we're going to be talking about as a cup holder for my wine glass. So that should give you an idea of what my thoughts on the movie we're going to talk about are. Today we're going to talk about Swamp Women, a movie from 1955. Now, this movie is notable for being one of only three of the movies in the Treeline Films 50 movie pack, which we're reviewing for the Classic Horror Review series, to be in color. And today we're going to find out together whether or not it had anything else going for it. So in the beginning of the movie, we open on a festival which is going on in New Orleans. Presumably it's Mardi Gras or something to the like. And we meet two of our main characters, which are Bob, who is a rich oil man who just bought a bunch of land out in the bayou, and his girlfriend, Marie, who seems very interested in him, but it's not really clear whether she's a gold digger or not. And that never gets fleshed out because she gets eaten by an alligator halfway through the movie. And then we head to the local jail, where the real protagonist of the movie, Lee, who is a female police officer, is bringing in a panhandler that was arrested for accosting Bob and Marie at the festival. So after she gets done booking this guy, she goes in and talks to her boss, I guess the sheriff or the superintendent or whatever you want to call him, and they exposition out for us the plot of the movie, to where Lee is going undercover into a woman's prison to infiltrate the infamous Nardo gang. The Nardo gang, who ironically are an all-female crime group that was arrested 3 years ago in regards to a diamond theft, but the diamonds themselves were never recovered. So their plan is for Lee to infiltrate the gang, help them break out of prison, and then go into the swamp where they've hidden the diamonds and retrieve them, and then of course all the other cops will all the other cops will swoop in and make the arrest. Now, and sure enough, that's exactly what happens. We're briefly introduced to these three members of the Nutsack Posse, and they are Josie Nardo, who is the ringleader. If you're actually watching this movie, she's the one with the ponytail. And the other two members of the gang are almost identical, except that one of them has red hair and one of them has blonde hair. The red-headed girl's name is Vera, and she's the gun-crazy one. That's all the character building they give her. And the blonde-haired one's name is Billy, and she's the boy-crazy one. So of course, it's Lee's first day in prison, so she immediately buddies up to the Nardo gang and says that they should escape like the next night. And all being hardened criminals, they don't find this at all suspicious and agree to split the money with her from the diamonds if she can help them bust out of prison. Which they do successfully do, because the cops are playing along and essentially letting them escape. So they escape, and they manage to get a boat, and they're rolling through the bayou around the same time that Bob is taking Marie out to survey his oil lands with her. But the Nardo gang, their boat ends up breaking, so they commandeer Bob's boat by shooting the driver, or the captain. They kill the captain and take both Bob and Marie as hostages. And it's actually Lee that convinces the other members of the gang not to kill them and to keep them as hostages just in case. And Bob is actually the flashpoint for a number of the cat fights that happen throughout the movie, because none of the members of this crime gang can get along. They're constantly all having slap fights and, you know, threatening to kill each other. And while one of these are going down, Marie tries to steal the boat and escape, but she ends up falling into the water and gets eaten off screen by a big crocodile, a big fake crocodile head. And this scene's interesting because I will say this movie utilizes a lot of B-roll and stock footage to kind of pad the runtime. But for the under-the-water shots of the alligator that's supposed to be, you know, ripping Marie to shreds, they very clearly just filmed like a baby alligator in a tank and spliced it in, and it's really pretty jarring. So Marie gets killed, and Bob jumps in to rescue her and ends up killing the gator, but's unable to save her, and then Lee has to jump in and save Mark from drowning, essentially. So we have the makings of a romance going on in the background of this diamond caper as well. So the movie continues. They drive around in the boat for a bit, have some uninteresting dialogue scenes, get in a couple cat fights, and this kind of rinse and repeats 2 or 3 times before they finally find the diamonds and are ready to. They find the diamonds and are able to get out of the swamp. And at that point, Josie, who has been the leader and has been trying to kind of push Lee to prove herself to the gang by being more violent and like not. She basically tells Lee that she has to kill Bob, or they're going to turn around and kill her and take all the money for themselves. And of course that doesn't happen, and it breaks into a big fight at the very end, and Lee, with the help of Bob, is able to incapacitate all the other members of the gang right as the police sweep in on their boat and helicopter and whatever. And of course, Lee and Bob have their obligatory kiss at the end of the movie, and everything's peachy keen. Now, if that sounded like not a whole lot happened for like a full-length feature film, I would agree with you. You're right. Like I said, a lot of this movie is kind of sweeping shots of the boat going through the swamp with like B-roll and stock footage of snakes and alligators and other creatures, you know, spliced in here and there. And everything else is kind of, it's either a cat fight or some like snippy, kind of bitchy dialogue scene where the women are snipping at each other and they're all, you know, they're dressed like 1950s sexy, to where they have their shirts buttoned all the way up, but they've got kind of like the Daisy Dukes on, they're showing their legs off. But there's nothing really sexually explicit or too gory than just a little bit of blood that happens in the movie. Now, beyond just that the plot isn't really interesting or compelling, like not a whole lot happens, it's also not really a horror movie, in the sense that it's not the scenes where like the animals are attacking or the people are fighting each other. It's not, you know, so dramatic and tense to where it would be like horrifying or considered scary. And I went and did some research in regards to why this would be included in a pack of classic horror movies. And from what I gathered, some of the actresses in this that make up the gang and Lee, I think at least one or two of them, are supposed to be kind of like scream queens of the 50s horror movie, or the horror and monster movie genre. So it's entirely possible that this was kind of like other movies we talked about previously, where they were included just to bolster the name value, or based on name value alone, they didn't take into account the quality of the actual movie. And my other big issue with the film, other than just like the gratuitous use of B-roll to kind of pad out, or to make the movie more visually interesting, or to pad it out, is that all of those scenes are just, or all those images and all the scenes that aren't specifically like stationary camera pointed at the characters while they're stationary. Everything else in the movie is terribly out of focus. The color is completely blown to shit, just oversaturated to all hell. Basically, what happened was they filmed this on a potato, and then left the film from when the movie was released in 1955. They played it in the theaters, and then left the film out in the sun behind a dumpster until they finally decided to put it on this DVD set, some 50 odd years later. Sorry, it's kind of hot down here in the basement. So overall, I would not recommend this. I would give this movie a thumbs down. Said it wasn't that bad, and kind of the campiness of the cat fights was, somewhat entertaining. But just overall, it's a movie that's not that long and relies far too much on B-roll, and both the B-roll and the actual stuff they shot for the movie is so blurry, and the color is so blown out, that honestly this movie just gives you a headache to look at. So I would not recommend this one. That's going to be it as far as this movie. So just ask you to like the video if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment. I know the next video will be a lot more fun to watch the movie and research for, because I'm actually doing Night of the Living Dead, which is one of the actual name movies that's included in this set. So I will see y'all next time in that video. I just ask you to subscribe, and y'all have a good one. Thank you.